What's up, people? I am back. Sorry it took me a few days to do this video, just stuff came up. And I guess since I watched it last night, I watched the shitty new Candyman last night, so that's why I didn't do it yesterday. But I'm not gonna devote a whole video to this movie. Turn up the fan a bit. It's hot. Sorry, guys, if you hear a fan. I'll try to talk louder than it. But yeah, this new Candyman, it's all just what I did with Suicide Squad. I'll do like a mini review before we get to the actual video, which is the Last Action Hero review. I'll set aside like just probably not even 5 minutes. I'm just gonna speak on the new little bit about the new Candyman. So we got a new Candyman came out that I'm gonna be honest was not needed. I like the original. It wasn't really needed and I'm not the biggest Candyman fan. I mean, I've seen the original. I think the original's awesome. And I know there's more than one movie, but didn't see those. But the problem with this new one was it was what I saw it was gonna be. It was nothing but BLM propaganda. That's all it was. It wasn't good, and people trying to excuse it with, well, the original. His backstory is his backstory, and that's not the forefront. And there was subtlety. I'm tired of this, like, with Hollywood feeling like they gotta beat you in the head with a hammer, they revive you, and then beat you in the head again. That's what that was with this one. There was like a whole subplot about police brutality, and they try to make him like almost like a vigilante. There was this weird thing. There was multiple Candymen, which was dumb. Oh, and the kicker, Tony Todd was barely fucking in it. He was like in the last basically chunk, and didn't do shit. He didn't stand out. Like even in the original, he had like his voice, and in this, his voice just didn't have any power to me. And it was very jump scare heavy. It just wasn't good. I don't get people who say this film is good. The only positive is it was kind of shot decent, but that's not even a positive because we're in 2021 where that's like a given. That should be a given. Your film should look good in terms of camera work in today. So that's not even like really a positive. Don't watch this movie. Just watch the original. This movie wasn't needed, and it was exactly what it was. At least I didn't pay for it. So there's that. So fuck the new Candyman. 0 out of 10. Probably the second worst movie this year after Mortal Kombat. So there's that. So now to the actual review. So before we get to the review, I'm gonna have some announcements. Tomorrow I'm not doing a video because I'm gonna be at Universal all day. So I'm not gonna be able to do a video. But Tuesday I will start my Men in Black franchise review we're gonna do just both the first two. I'll just review 1 and 2 on Tuesday. So do 2 videos. And then on Wednesday, Linkin Park, bands I love, I will be doing, and also reviewing Men in Black 3. Then Thursday, Queensryche video. Queensryche, who's a band, so they'll be part of the bands I love. And then the main video will be reviewing Escape from New York, which I can't wait to do. And then Friday, which probably is going to be the one I really can't wait to do, John Carpenter's The Thing. So I cannot wait to review those movies. So that'll be my plan this week. So sorry guys, I can't do a video tomorrow. I'm going to be at Universal all day. But yeah. But today's video, we're going to be reviewing the movie The Last Action Hero, which stars Arnold Schwarzenegger, directed by John McTiernan, who's Die Hard. That's like his most famous film. But he's done so many good ones. And even though Arnold said some really retarded shit recently, and I still say fuck him for that, saying screw your freedom, let's put that aside. This movie is one of his more underrated ones. This movie, unfortunately, didn't do well when it came out in 1993. I suspect partially because this was 2 years after Terminator 2. And Terminator 2 was just like this, just this high, and then this was like his first big movie after that, and just unfortunately it just didn't do well. But I think it's a very fun movie. I love the whole premise, with this kid who gets this magic ticket and is transported into this world. I think this movie is like Indian in the Cupboard. It's just like a movie that's just like a pure kid's imagination brought to life. And I think this movie does a really good job in portraying that. I think it's just a fun movie too. You know, it's not Arnold's like top five. Like it's not Terminator 2, Terminator 1 or 2, or Commando, you know, or Predator. It's not that, but I think this movie is really good. I think people shit on it sometimes. Like, yeah, it's not one of his greatest movies, but it's definitely a fun one. So I really like it. So it's fucking lighter. All right. So kicking off this movie, we are introduced. This movie kind of kicks off very much like in Jack Slater's, or which is Arnold Schwarzenegger's character, who's a movie character, but they introduce it like it's a real thing. And I think they do a really good job because you think you're just starting off as, oh, this is an Arnold movie. So Arnold shows up as Jack Slater, confronts one of the bad guys. Trying to look for the dude's name. Uh, so Benedict, who's one of the bad guys in the film. Trying to find this fucker's name. So we learn that the Ripper, and then we get like a cool scene. Arnold confronts the Ripper, but then this is where it's revealed. Oh, this is a movie, and this is where we're introduced to our main character, Danny, who I actually think is a decent kid actor. I think what made it work is they didn't go too young. He looked about like 13. I don't even think 14. Like he looked about 13, maybe 14, maybe. Like he didn't. I liked it. I think that's why it worked. They didn't go too young, because I think if they probably went a bit younger, it may not have worked. Because y'all know I don't really like a lot of kid actors. But I actually think Danny did a really good job in this movie. So we're introduced to Danny, who lives in crime-ridden New York City with his mother, and then he goes to this theater owned by a guy named Harry, and then yeah, so Danny gets robbed from at his house, and then he is invited to go see Jack Slater 4 at the theater he goes to. And there's a quick scene of Danny in school, and he's like learning Hamlet, and there's this kind of like funny little thing where it's almost like he's just imagining Hamlet as basically Arnold just shooting people. It's a really funny little scene. So Danny goes to the theater, and this is where he goes to watch Jack Slater 4. And in the golden ticket he's given is actually magical and ends up transporting him to that universe. And I will say this movie has a phenomenal soundtrack. You have Megadeth, you have, I think Alice in Chains is in it, fucking, Queensryche did a song, AC/DC, a lot. Like, Aerosmith, goddamn, definitely. I should have put this in one of my best albums, this soundtracks, because like the soundtrack is like god tier. But so he gets transported to Jack Slater's universe. We have like a big chase in the car, which is really fun. And I think when they get to the parts where they're in the movie, I love like whenever Arnold shoots somebody, they always fucking fly like 30 feet, because that's a trope in action movies sometimes where somebody, even when like you just get shot with a pistol, you fly like 20 feet. So I like they did a good job at that. So Jack Slater kills the pursuers, and then he takes Danny to the police station. Really funny scene. You have some like almost like, I don't know, rap music or something playing over. You have a little cameo from the T-1000, Robert Patrick, which was cool. And like Danny's trying to prove throughout the film, Danny's trying to prove to Arnold that, to Jack, that he's in a movie, and Jack doesn't believe it, and we see Jack's like kind of life, and it's just basically him being a cop, and then he is made Jack's new partner by uh, Jack's boss. Then they go to a movie store because Danny wants to prove to him it's a movie, and you get a really funny scene of them fighting the T2 poster. And in this movie universe, T2, it was Stallone who was the Terminator. That, and I kind of would love to see that. Obviously, I don't think it would have the same effect, but that would be interesting. Just like in an alternate universe, if Stallone was the Terminator. So you get a lot of funny gags. I don't know, maybe that's why people didn't like it. Because this wasn't like a straight up action film. Like, it is an action film when you get to the action scenes. But it's not like Commando or even True Lies where there's like shootouts left and right. In this, you get a lot more like humor. And I thought the humor was done well. And like I said, this is Arnold's first movie since T2. So that's maybe, I think that has a lot to do with why it didn't do great. Because it was like, they probably wanted more after like Terminator 2, which is understandable. Terminator 2 was like that fucking bar it raised for movies. But it's like this movie I think was fine. Then they go to the house of Vivaldi. He's one of the bad. He's like the side bad guy. He's like a mob boss, but the real villain is Benedict, who's played by Charles Dance, who I think did an awesome job. Charles Dance is a great actor. A lot of people know him from as I don't fully know because I'm not a Game of Thrones guy, but he was in Game of Thrones. That's like his most famous role. He was great in Godzilla King of the Monsters, but I thought he was an awesome. Benedict, who's Charles Dance. He's really the main bad guy. The Vivaldi guy is kind of like a. He's made this. They make it seem like he's the main bad guy, but he really isn't. He's kind of like a side bad guy. So they go to Benedict's house. They try to confront him, but they're not allowed. Then we're introduced to Jack's daughter, Whitney, who, man, she was like, she was like that, like in the '90s, especially early '90s. Literally, blondes were like in, tall blondes, long legs. That was just it. So we meet his daughter. Then this is where we learn, because we were gonna see it early, but then the film cut, that Jack's son was killed confronting the Ripper because the Ripper grabbed him and he fell off the thing, which is really sad. And I actually think Arnold does a really good job, like the scene where he's looking at, because he shows Danny like fake money, and then he looks down and he sees a picture of him and his son. I actually thought Arnold did a good job of like conveying. So we see what happens. Then Whitney tells Danny about what happened. Benedict and his men invade the house, because they want to know where Jack is, and Benedict wants to know who this kid is. And then Arnold makes the save, kind of big shootout, and I just love every time, just like every one time somebody got shot, they fly like 20 feet. It's fucking great. And I think that's what made it, like, they really did a good job at portraying a movie within a movie. Like, they really did, like, because when they get to the real world, which I will get to, is so much different, but in their world, yeah, you get shot, you're flying like 20 feet. It's fucking great. Or like, obviously crazy crashes where you're jumping off like a fucking, not a cliff, but like maybe a bridge, and you land, like stuff like that. So Benedict manages to get away, and then so after that, that's when it turns out Benedict, who has like a glass eye, one of his glass eyes was a bomb, blows up the house. Um, and then this is where it reveals Benedict has the ticket stub because he takes Danny's wallet. And then this scene was great because that's when he touches the wall, you could tell like it opened a portal. And then as soon as he moves away, they kick in that, because he's watching TV, the fucking Twilight Zone opening fucking kicks in. It was fucking awesome. Like, it was perfect. It's a fucking great film. It's just, it's severely underrated. Yeah, like mentioned earlier, is not obviously up there with like Arnold's top films, but I think it was fun. You know. Then, so Benedict blows up the house. Then he basically gets reprimanded by his boss, and I love that trope because boss is just yelling at him. Because that's another trope in like cop movies. There's even like I think it was a bit intentional. There's music at times. I'm like, this sounds like Lethal Weapon. Like, you know that Lethal Weapon like that, like piano or keyboard or whatever. Not piano. It's a fucking saxophone. Sorry, that sax music kind of kicks in, like, because he's a cop and it works almost. And the trope is in those movies you have like a boss who's a hard ass. Like you have the one cop who's like a rogue, does things on his own, and then you got like the boss who just yells at him. It's really funny. Then this is where like him and Danny actually have a really good scene together where they're back at his house and he kind of reveals what his life actually was, that his wife left him and all that. And then this is where Slater figures out that Vivaldi is going to use a lethal gas because they're going to a funeral on top of a skyscraper. So Slater and Danny go to the skyscraper, and um, we have another cop who's like one of um, Slater's former friends. It turns out he actually works for Vivaldi. You even have like a scene where Danny confronts him and talks about like, oh, you do the villain trick, or you talk to telling your plan, but he ends up doing it. I think this movie is actually really clever. So I don't, but I mean, I get it. It wasn't Terminator 2, and maybe people were expecting something bigger after that, like, movie that T2 was a movie that set the bar, especially for Arnold. So maybe they were expecting something bigger, and then we got this. I love this film. I think this film's actually fucking brilliant. Like I mentioned, you have this kid Danny talking about like, oh, you do the villain trick where you go on about your fucking plan, but that's what you're doing. So he ends up getting tied up, but then they get saved by this cat who's actually an animated cat. And that's how like they show how ridiculous this universe is. You have a cat that's a cartoon. It's fucking great. So Slater ends up stopping the gas from being released. You have a cool little scene in a tar pit. Then Benedict ends up killing Vivaldi because he doesn't need him anymore. And then Slater and Danny try to confront him, but Benedict and his, like, I guess like almost like servant, he's like, if you know James Bond, you have this, fuck, what's his name? I haven't watched James Bond in a long time, but you have like this Asian dude who, Odd Job, I think is his name. I could be wrong. I have not watched James Bond in a long fucking time. So, he's like this Asian dude who has like a crazy hat. Um, fucking kind of like a take on him. So they end up in Danny's world. So Danny and Slater have to chase him in the real world, and I like how in the real world things change. Like, because in like in Slater's universe, he can punch like a car window. You can just punch through a car window and it not hurt. Or like obviously you get shot. You get shot for real. You don't fly like 20 feet. So Benedict's plan basically is he's gonna bring villains from other universes, and throughout, like when he's in the regular universe, he realizes you can just do fucked up shit here because they're in early 90s New York, which is still probably really crime ridden as like 80s New York was. So like you could just openly shoot people and no one bats an eye. So his plan is he's gonna he brings the Ripper, who was in the third film. He brings him to the real world and wants to hire him to kill Arnold, actual Arnold Schwarzenegger. And I still wonder how they did that. Like, so while this is happening, I really like the scene where Slater realizes, oh my god, I'm actually just a movie character. And it's really sad because you live your life in a movie. You don't know you're a fucking movie character. So it's just very interesting. And then he meets Danny's mom, who you don't really. She's okay. She's not in this film all the time. You see her like in the beginning, and then I think after this is it. Like, because when they leave, they go off to search for Benedict, and this is where Benedict. This is where it's revealed he hires the Ripper to kill Arnold Schwarzenegger at the Jack Slater 4 premiere, and Danny and Jack chase Benedict, and this is where they realize what Benedict's plan is. They go to the premiere. The Ripper shows up. You even get a funny scene where they think it's the actor who plays the Ripper, but it's not. So then, kind of then Arnold's actually there. I really want to know how they did that, how they were able to get like, because this was '93. So I'm like, how did they get Arnold? And because there's a scene where Jack Slater gets tackled by Arnold. It could have just been a stunt, man. I really want to know. I will watch like the making of it or something. So, but Danny ends up getting captured by the Ripper, and then we kind of get a scene similar to the one we saw earlier, where Slater has to save Danny, even like the same like, oh, get rid of your guns and all that. But ends up the Ripper ends up getting killed because he gets electrocuted to death. Um, then after because not Benedict, the Ripper tried to throw Danny over, like kind of what happened with his son, and basically it's like also a redemption thing because Jack wasn't able to save his son in time, but he's actually able to save Danny in time. But then this is where Benedict is going on about his plan. A lot of references to like, oh, he's gonna bring in King Kong, Freddy Krueger, Hitler, who was in a lot of movies at this time period. You know, references to like Rosemary's Baby. A lot of good references within this movie. And while he's doing that, he's like shooting at them. Then Arnold, like, not Arnold, Jack's like, oh, you did the villain trick, and it turns out no. And then Benedict's like, no, I just didn't put one in the chamber. Shoots Arnold, but Benedict is about to try to kill Arnold. He has him down, and then Danny like kind of distracts him, and then Jack gets the gun, shoots his eye, and he blows up. But unfortunately, the injury is actually like could kill him because he's in real life. So Danny tries to take him to the theater, but the ticket doesn't work. And then Death, who was from like another movie, was brought to the real world, and it's basically seemingly like, oh, I'm coming to get Jack. And it was cool because Death was played by Ian McKellen, who I thought was great. Even though he was only in this film for like 2 seconds. I always will love seeing Ian McKellen. Magneto, Gandalf. Then Death is able to make it to where Danny is able to get the ticket working and the projector working, and they get basically Jack back to his world. And then the portal closes, and then yeah, the film ends pretty much. Really awesome film. Very, you know what it is? It's not like R-rated like violence like Terminator 2 is like, because you don't really see a lot of blood. Really, you see a little bit, but not a lot. Like when they kill people, like flying 20 feet, you're not seeing like when they get shot, like blood splatter and all that. So I think that's part of it. Maybe people are like, this is too toned down, but I fucking love this movie. I love how it references other movies. I love how well they did the movie within a movie. Like when they're in Jack Slater's movie, it actually feels like they're in a movie. Like, the movie tropes. Like when people get shot, they fly like 20 feet, And Arnold did a really good job because there was a scene he's playing himself, then he's also playing Jack. It's really awesome. Like I said, not, Arnold's best film, especially compared to, like, obviously his other ones, but I really enjoy it. And I thought Danny did a really good job. They're, like, really the main two characters in this movie. Besides, like, Benedict as the bad guy, you know, Charles Dance kills it. I think he's a great bad guy, to be honest. Um, uh, yeah, Charles Dance is in Alien 3. He's definitely one of the best parts of that movie. But it's a fun movie, guys. I would definitely say watch it, especially if you just like Arnold movies. Like, if you just want a fun Arnold movie where it's you kill maybe a little bit of, like, kill like 2 hours and badass soundtrack. Like, so, like I mentioned, you have Aerosmith, AC/DC, Megadeth, Alice in Chains. I think you have like two Alice in Chains songs on there. Like, really good shit on there. And it's like it's not Arnold's best. Like, out of 10, I'd give this movie like an 8. For I just love the concept of like a magic ticket that can take you through a movie. Because I would love like a horror, like a slasher version of it. Obviously, not the same exact plot, but like where you have like an original slasher within that universe, and the main characters end up getting like transported to that universe. I would love something like that. It's just a fun movie. A lot of good callbacks. I love the references to Terminator. You know, you have like a bunch of cameos too. Like in the scene in the should have mentioned more. Like the scene when they're at the premiere, you got a cameo from Jean-Claude Van Damme, fucking Damon Wayans from Last Boy Scout. You have like it's I'm trying to think. There was like a bunch of people at the premiere. Yeah, Little Richard. You had Jean-Claude Van Damme, Jim Belushi, a lot of good people. Just a great scene. Just an awesome movie. So, out of 10, like I said, an 8. So that's my review of this movie. So, like I said, no video tomorrow. Tuesday, Men in Black 1 and 2. That'll be my next video. But yeah. But, stupid lighter. Anyway. Never mind. This lighter's out, so I don't know. I'll just so yeah, this stupid lighter's out, so other than that, my usual stuff. Fuck Warner Brothers, fuck Disney, and now fuck Joe Biden. He's gonna be part of this on where he fuck yous in the end. So yeah, fuck Joe Biden and his administration. Fuck Disney. Fuck Kevin Smith. Fuck LaBitch James. Um, that is it. But other than that, talk to y'all on Tuesday. But yeah, I'll talk to you guys on Tuesday. Peace.